Benin Moat, Ija, in the local language, was built as a defensive fortification around the Great Benin Kingdom. During the time it was at its height and when the kingdom engaged in many wars. The Benin walls consisted of a combination of ramparts and moats. The ramparts ranged in size from shallow traces to gigantic 20-meter high, 66 feet around Benin Kingdom. It covered a border distance of 16,000 kilometers. It enclosed 6,500 kilometers of community land. Its construction is estimated to have started as early as 800 AD. It was finally completed around 1460 AD. It provided a defensive barrier against invaders. Shortly after the wall and the ditch were completed, the Portuguese visited Benin in 1472 AD. At that time, it was considered the world's largest earthwork. European visitors traveled north, described the Great Wall of Benin, for example, Dapa 1668. The Guinness Book of World Records 1974 describes the walls of Benin's kingdom as the world's second largest man-made structure after China's Great Wall. In terms of length and series of earthen ramparts as the most extensive earthwork in the world, Fred Pierce wrote in New Scientist. They extend far from 16,000 kilometers in all, in a mosaic of more than 500 interconnected settlement boundaries. They covered 6,500 square kilometers and were all dug by the Edo people. In all, they are 4 times larger than the Great Wall of China and consumed 100 times more material than the Great Pyramid of Cheops. They took an estimated 150 million hours of digging to construct and are perhaps the largest single archaeological phenomenon on the planet. Considered one of the great wonders of the world, the walls were built of a ditch and thick structure. The ditch was dug to form an inner moat, and the excavated earth from this was used to construct the external rampart. Its construction method predates the use of modern earth-moving equipment or technology. Oba Ogwola 1280 to 1295 completed the first and the second moats. It degraded construction of 20 smaller moats around other important towns and villages to protect them against invaders. In the 15th century, during the reign of Oba Ewari the Great, 1440 to 1473, an extension of the moat was about 3,200 kilometers was constructed. This fortified bastion allowed entry to the kingdom from 9 gates to be controlled at night. The gates were locked. As lines of defense, the moats were heavily guarded around the clock. They stopped invaders as they could be seen whilst trying to get through and were killed or captured by the Benin soldiers guarding the gates and walls. The ramparts, which were steep banks of earth, stopped invaders climbing over them as they could be buried in sand. Avalanches and sand on their weapons could disable them. The high walls made it difficult for attackers and invaders to climb over. Invaders trying to climb the walls were good targets for the Benin soldiers' spears and poisoned arrows. The outer walls, which were very high, provided a thick shield around the city. Their 9 gates restricted access to the city. The heart of Benin, the capital city of the Great Benin Kingdom, was bordered by the inner wall. This was as high and as wide as a 2-story building and 10 kilometers long. It surrounded the most important parts of the city, like the royal palace and the chiefs' houses. Outside this wall was a ditch as deep as wide as the wall. A massive fortified earthwork entrance gateway guided travelers away in. It was supported by timber and guided by soldiers with swords slung under their left armpits. A heavy wooden door blocked the gateway. A traveler bringing goods into the city would usually have to pay a toll before the gate was opened. In addition, the upper parts of the city were surrounded by the outer walls. These were high 18 walls, dull red in color, carefully smoothed into a series of horizontal ripples. The tops of these walls were roofed to prevent them being washed away by the rain. A great thatched gate was guarded by more soldiers, whom the traveler had to identify themselves to before admission to these parts of the city. These were the areas where the Uzama chiefs and the armed commander lived. All visitors or travelers in any part of Benin City had to pass through these securities before gaining access. For some, this was no mean feat. For many foreign visitors, it took days for them to see the king. For some traders, it was far simpler to conduct their trade outside the town and city borders. For the Benin people, their security was assured. As summarized by the Portuguese ship captain Lorenzo Pinto, visiting in 1674, Great Benin, where the king resides, is larger than Lisbon. All the streets run straight as far as the eye can see. The houses are large, especially that of the king, which is richly decorated, has fine columns. The city is wealthy and industrious. It is well organized, that theft is unknown, and people live in such security that they have no doors to their houses. This was also at the period the transatlantic slave trade was booming, and raids on towns and villages by African and European slaves were very common. This defense mechanism, in addition to Benin tribal marks on the forehead, helped to ensure that no Benin person was ever enslaved for the purposes of the transatlantic slave trade. Do you know the wars kept out European slavers who were in search of slaves to transport to the Caribbean and the Americans on their slave ship across the Atlantic Ocean? Obagatokbe, he said, long live the Great Benin Kingdom, long live our Oba. Umogungatokbe, he said.